Sanji Chudon Soji Chonam La Chanju Pardo Bane Jazonji Dage Jinson Be Sanam Jin Rola Penshir Sanjin Robarajo Sanji Chudon Soji Chonam La Chanju Pardo Dane Jazonji Dage Jinson Be Sanam Jin Rola Penshir Sanjin Robarajo Sanji Chudon Janam Chanjo Bardo Dane Jazonji Dage Jinson Be Sanam Jin Rola Penshir Sanji Robarajo Semjen Tamjen Dewa Dan Deve Judan Nembara Jurjen Donga Dan Donga Ji Judan Chawara Jurje Donga Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mendra Jurje Niren Chadan Nidan Chave Tanyam Chembola Nebra Jurje Semjen Tamjen Dewa Dan Deve Judan Dembara Jurje Donga Dan Donga Je Judan Chawara Jurje Donga Mebe Dewa Damba Damendra Jurje Niren Chadan Nidan Chai Tanyan Shembola Nebara Jurje Semjen Tamjen Dewa Deve Judan Dembara Jurje Donga Dan Donga Je Judan Chawara Jurje Donga Mebe Dewa Damba Mendra Jurje Niren Chadan Nidan Chai Shembola Dembara Chonji Dorje Chanchen Delona Roda Marba Melan Chuje Gambomba Tuzon Sheja Gunjengar Mamba Chejin Chungjen Jumbanze Nandan Jedan Sazon Nendrum Baso Salam Chajan Chelang Nimbe Nyamen Rung Tambon Ganjula Sovan Deson Ganjula Manan Jumban Zeno Nandara Shenjelo Shenlong Gamje Gambara Zombaje Zenoran Gona Chajeme Bada Tendren de Tanjembe Gamjena Nyengura Shemba Membara Shenjelo Nungun Gamjengora Sombaje Mengandergo Jebela Mala Jendo Soande Bengon Jena Jememagu Kewara Shenjelo Yemen Gonjeng Zombaje Kansharan Dobe Ozomande Manjun de Garanjo
Page number 10, that fourth, fifth line.
Nije mendo zambon debo changjo lamla barje menjong shen duzum deje gomba doba Sebo Mendro Jiwa Menejen Nam Ganyam Bendo Doresho Dagi Give Nam the Dog Jiden Done Nudo Tanja Jon Dola Benjir Chunam Dunji Simjin Dong Mambe Zelendro Jaza Wadan Jujin Jambadan Jiso Iran Kujin Soa Giwa Junze Dagi Jizam Tamji Dagi Janjo Jembo. Page number 21. Page number 21. 21. Zimje namje samba dan loye shera jedara chejon tumon tebaye chuji korlo gordo so. Padın zaya namazın boyu da gecero ve menden na kadinci be kone jezon de uzon do jango za do so. 민주주의인지 바라네 무슨 산재 군정은 아니라 정치 공헌은 떠나면 샤가 장원도 당에도 이제를 저런 전주면도 이제 본좀 봐서 좀 보다 그러지 정치자 왜 샤가 장원도 저저 막 건도가 도산지 저거 좀 도제진지 돌아서 전례들과 장원도 아마가 얘기 단도단도 생겨야 좋은다도 매게 남다 로아 군제라게 제선 벌 탐지게도 나게 줘도 okay. So good morning. So today somebody wanted to take the refuge, right? Who is that? Who wants to take refuge? You're the one? Okay. So first we will do the refuge ceremony, and then after that we will continue. Okay, we will do some meditation today. So now, before I start the refuge, do you have some idea about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and the refuge? Okay. So I'll just give you a brief because to remind. So all of us have taken refuge, so it will become like a reminder to all of us. So now we take refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So now refuge means, why do we take refuge? And so we should take refuge to a source which can give us the perfect result, right? So as a being, we all wish to be happy. We all wish to be free from suffering. So that is the whole, the goal of all beings, irrespective of what kind of beings we are. Whether we are humans, whether we are animals, whether we are, some kind of bugs, whether we are, no matter what, all of us, one common goal we have, and that is to be completely free from suffering, and, so freedom from suffering and happiness. And we all strive to do this in our own way, and we have been doing this for many lifetimes. We have been doing this in our entire lifetime till now, and we will continue to do this. So whether we are Buddhists or not, whether we understand Dharma or not, we all trying to do this. Whether we eat, whether we sleep, whether we talk, whether we whatever we do, we are basically trying to get this, some kind of happiness and freedom from suffering. But now, whether it is really, a lasting, unchanging happiness, whether it is really unchanging freedom from suffering, what we have been doing, what we are doing so far, if we examine, it is really a question, because we maybe, for example, we wish to eat some good food. We have the desire to eat a good food. So, so that desire, to that attachment to that taste, we try to fulfill, thinking we will be able to fulfill it. Then we go and have some really good meal. And after that, during the time of taking the meal, we feel, happy. But after that, it is a short period. After we digest that, and maybe by the time dinner comes, your lunch, that feeling of the joy or happiness is so. It's and in fact, if the dinner isn't as good as the lunch, that very lunch which was supposed to be your source of happiness has become the source of suffering. Because the dinner is no more good enough as lunch. So then you are unhappy again. So that way, now anything in this world, the material, external material happiness that we seek for, it is like that. So it is. It has only temporary. Temporary effect or temporary lasting benefit, whether it is finance, financial benefits, whether it is anything, so that way, and then we need to search for this true, lasting, unchanging, happiness and freedom from suffering, and so when we really examine that, then the Buddha, the Buddha Shakyamuni, he realized that unless one realizes the truth of everything, it is impossible to achieve this total freedom from suffering. Which, in other words, means unless you are free from ignorance, complete freedom from ignorance, then we will never be, we will never be able to achieve this complete freedom from suffering. And because ignorance is the cause of all suffering. Through ignorance, we have, clinging on to things as a reality, as a permanent, that kind of a thing. But that is not the reality of things. The reality of things is beyond any limitations. In other words, in Buddhist we say emptiness. Emptiness doesn't mean nothingness. It means everythingness actually. It means the limitless potential of everything. So the Buddha nature also we say. So that is the reality. So unless, and that is the wisdom, through which we realize this. So unless we are able to really realize this, then, which is the truth, we will never be able to totally achieve this everlasting happiness. So therefore, the Buddha attained this complete freedom from ignorance, attained the realization, and because of that, then he is the most perfect or unmistaken source of guide for us, because he achieved that. We cannot go to a source which hasn't achieved the result, because for example, if you haven't been from this place to from A to B, and then you cannot take refuge to a source which hasn't been from A to B to go from A to B, because the very source doesn't know how to go from A to B. So how can you take the refuge to that? But Buddha has taken, Buddha has realized, this, realization. So therefore, through the path, so he becomes the perfect source of refuge. So that is why Buddha is the, we take refuge to the Buddha. Now, why refuge to the Buddha? Because through his guide, we can achieve this total freedom from ignorance, total freedom from suffering. So that is what we have been looking for, for this countless lifetimes and in our lifetime. So therefore, he is the unmistaken source. So that is the first, so that is why we take refuge to the Buddha. Then the Dharma, so Dharma is the manifestation of the, the path through the Buddha. When Buddha attained enlightenment, then he became the truth itself. So when he became the truth itself, he became, Buddha, because his very, we say bodhicitta, or very motivation was to benefit beings, to liberate beings from this suffering to the state of, complete realization. So because of that motivation, and because of that, he attained enlightenment. So when he attained enlightenment, then the Dharma manifested from him spontaneously because of the motivation. So and then it manifests according to the needs of the beings. So beings are of different capable. So, for example, the Dharma, Buddha manifested in the yana, we say the three yanas, the Theravada, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. So, and of course many, but categorized mainly in these three. So that way he manifested the Dharma. So the Dharma is the path, where he says, what is the truth, what is relative truth, what is ultimate truth, and then how to work through the relative truth to realize the ultimate truth. So all that, and then what is the main cause of suffering? What are the root cause of suffering? How to overcome them? How to attain realization. So all that, so teaching of the Buddha, which spontaneously manifested. So that is the Dharma, and Dharma is the path. So through the path, then we attain exactly what the Buddha attained. And Buddha has said that he can benefit beings through the Dharma. He manifests the Dharma, and beings, by following the Dharma, can attain enlightenment. He cannot pick up beings and put them to enlightenment. That is up to you. So you are the master of yourself, because we have this Buddha nature in us. So whether we realize that or not is totally up to us. Nobody else has the power to do that. Nobody else can punish us, nor can liberate us. We ourselves can liberate us. So, but through the Dharma, he can benefit beings through the Dharma by manifesting the Dharma. So therefore, Dharma is the path through which we can attain this complete freedom from suffering and this, the wisdom or the total realization of the total truth. So therefore, Dharma is the path to which we take complete refuge to. So therefore, Dharma becomes the source of refuge, a complete source of refuge. Then now, in order to tread the path, we need support. We need help. We need. So that is the Sangha. Sangha is the community which uphold the the Dharma, which was transmitted or manifested by the Buddha. As we know, Buddha is ever present. Because Buddha is beyond three times. So he is beyond birth and death. He is beyond past, present, future. So he is beyond all that. But we are still relative. We still have this I here. So as long as I is here, and then you are there. As long as so we are in this. We say there's the cycle of object, subject, and action. So as long as we are in this, then we are relative, and as long as we are relative, then Buddha manifested over 2,000, 500-600 years back, and then he passed into paranirvana. And today here we cannot see him directly. So how can we benefit from him? Is, as I said, through the Dharma. But how do we receive the Dharma? Is through the Sangha. So the Sangha, right from the Buddha's time, from the Buddha directly passed on to his disciple, then from those disciple to their disciple, that way unbroken, unchanged, alive lineage of the Dharma, right from Buddha's time till today, us, it has been passed without broken by the Sangha. So they uphold this, they practice this, and then they teach this. So that is how we receive it. So they are like a friend, the unmistaken friend, who can give us the ultimate benefit that we are searching for. So therefore, Sangha becomes the unmistaken source of refuge, friend. So in that sense now, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is the three source of refuge, without which we cannot attain enlightenment. So we cannot achieve our ultimate goal. So because of that, then they become the source of refuge to us. So now, keeping that in mind, then we are taking the refuge. So realizing that till now we have tried all kind of things, but somehow not managed to achieve this complete freedom. So now recognizing that we, by trying to satisfy our needs through external material benefits is not just enough. By realizing that we need to seek for this answer within ourselves, because at the end of the day, it is the mind which perceives everything. What we perceive is the mind. Whether it is happiness, whether it is the suffering, it is the mind that perceives it. So therefore, the answer lies within us. And in order to recognize this answer within us, then the Dharma is the only path through which we can achieve this. So therefore, recognizing this, then Dharma, taking the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha as the refuge, then we decide to take the refuge, the refuge. And then this refuge ceremony, right from the Buddha till this day, again in unbroken lineage, passed down from, with the blessings and the alike lineage. So that way, through the ceremony, then you will be receiving the refuge. Now I always say, this ceremony through the blessing, taking the refuge, we do the ceremony because of the unbroken lineage. Understanding, as I have explained to you, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, through that we take refuge to the source, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, as we understand. But here, the true, a deeper meaning of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha is within ourselves. As I said, our nature is Buddha. We are Buddha by nature. Our essence is Buddha. We call this Buddha nature. We, all beings, have this nature in us, which is limitless potential, which is perfect at all times. But temporarily obscured by our, limited, obscured by ignorance, and then create this I. So actually we are beyond this I. We are not so limited as this I, but because of our ignorance, create this limitation. So that way, and then actually our very essence is limitless potential, is the Buddha. So therefore, when we take refuge to the Buddha, means we are turning towards that. We are turning towards this very essence of who we really are. Working to realize this, very essence of who we really are. So which means we are being the most honest, most perfect, most to ourselves. So because some people have a difficulty, they think Buddha is somewhere outside there and I'm somewhere here, and then you come from a belief where you run away from a belief where it kind of oppresses you with you have to believe this, you cannot believe that, if you question you cannot question, you cannot so they try to go away from that, and then they come here and again another refuge where you are supposed to take a refuge to somebody else. They feel a kind of uneasiness with these kind of thinking, but actually it is not, because here you are not taking refuge to some other source who is like a creator, who if you please will give you all happiness, and who if you anger will give you all suffering. Not like that. So here you yourself, you are the Buddha, because that is your essence. So by taking refuge to the Buddha means realizing that, working on recognizing that, working on that. So that is taking refuge to the Buddha. And Dharma is then, by doing that, in that, your very essence is perfect at all times. There is no negative and positive in that. There is no good and bad in that. There is no, so these are all concepts that we create, with ignorance. But our very nature, this Buddha nature, is free from such. And that is the Dharma. That is the perfect state of everything. That is the Dharma. And this very, and in that state of perfectness, then there can be no discrimination. There can be no corruption. So that is the most noble being. And that is the Sangha. So the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is within you. It is you. It is the most perfect state of you. It is the essence of you. So therefore, when you take refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, in one way you are taking refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, which manifested, out there for you to recognize or for you to realize your own potential. Because Buddha is beyond you and I. So therefore, in that sense, Buddha out there and Buddha in you is one. There's no difference. Because we are trapped in this concept of you and I, we see Buddha there and I here. But for Buddha, there's no you and I. He's beyond you and I. So therefore, Buddha and your essence is one. So therefore, when you take refuge, then you are taking refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha up there at this moment, because we are relatives, so we need to work with that. But in essence, we are taking refuge to the most perfect ourselves. Refuge means we are becoming the most perfect ourselves. So that is why when we take refuge, means it is the first step towards liberation. Why? Because it is the first step towards walking towards realizing the very essence of ourselves. So that is when we realize the perfect essence of ourselves, that is liberation. We are not limited. We cannot be trapped in anything because we are always perfect at all times. But because of ignorance, temporarily, yes, we are obscured to recognize that. So that is what refuge truly means. So with this understanding, then you receive the refuge. Okay. So now, since you are receiving the refuge, so you think that Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, as I explained to you, and then you prostrate to that 3 times and genuinely think I'm taking refuge, and then rejoice in this, and then you have to repeat after me. Okay. So I will read in Tibetan because I received the ceremony in Tibetan lineage. So in order for you to receive the blessing and the lineage, so then I will read in Tibetan and you follow me. But first, as I said, you think genuinely of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, as I explained to you, and to that you do 3-time prostration, and then think I'm receiving the refuge. Okay? Okay, now you prostrate. Can you do prostrate?
Yeah, I'm taking refuge to Buddha.
Yeah, Dharma and Sangha. Yeah. So now you do 3 times. Okay. Yeah. Okay, you can follow him. Yeah. Okay. 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 Now you can sit, and then you can repeat after me. Okay. When I tell you to repeat. Jamdo Dumbalan Bando Bashindo Le, Gunjosuna Jamdo Wajiba, Mebato Branjuru, Pension to Jay, Telanami Jason, Nanamata Tayoji, then so good Bachabarjan, Beji. So this is whatever I told you till now. Now you repeat after me, okay? Chunpa, Gong Su Sol, Da, Ming, say your name. She, Jiwa, Tu, Dine, Zungte, Chisi, Chowi, Partu, Kangni, Namji, Cho, Sangji, La, Japsu, Chiwo, Decha, Tang, Chalwa, Namji, Chok, Chula, Japsu, Chiwo, Chok, Namji, Chok, Gendun, La, Japsu, Chiwo, Da, Tu, Dine, Zungte, Chisi, Chowe, Partu, Japsum, Zinpe, Genyen Tu, Lopen Chi, Zung Tu, Sol. Okay. So again you are saying, so here you are taking refuge. You are saying, I'm taking refuge to the Buddha, I'm taking refuge to the Dharma, I'm taking refuge to the Sangha. Okay. So your name, so you are taking refuge, you are saying this. Okay. Chunpa, Gongsu, Sol, Da, Ming, your name, She, Jiwa, Tu, Dine, Zungte, Chisi, Chowe, Partu, Kangni, Namji, Chok, Sangje, La, Japsu, Chiwo, Decha, Tang, Talwa, Namji, Chok, Chuna, Japsu, Chiwo, Cho, Namji, Chok, Gendun, La, Japsu, Chiwo, Da, Tu, Dene, Zungte, Chesi, Chowe, Partu, Japsum, Zinpe, Genyen Tu, Loppenchi, Zungtu, Sol. Okay, so now I ask you to come up, and then I will take a little bit of your hair from your crown. So this symbolizes that crown is the highest point of our physical body, and then the hair is so from there also when you pull your hair, then hair is the highest point of view. So one, it is the highest point of view. Second, as a worldly being. Nowadays, I don't know, but hair is very precious to us, right? We have so many attachment to our hair. So it is, when you make a kind of a cut a little bit and offer, it is a gesture of the highest honor. It is like you're offering one, you're offering with greatest honor or respect, and second is saying from now on I look more deeper into the path rather than just worldly benefit and others, because I see the worldly benefits are not really sustainable, so I'm looking more deeper into the realization or the freedom from this suffering. So therefore so that is the gesture of that. So by offering that, then I will say Thap in no. Then when I say Thap in no, then you will say Lexo. So when I will say Super Tekpa Latoam, which means do you wish to offer the little hair, and then do you rejoice in that? And then you have to say Tola. Tola means yes, I rejoice. Okay. So then after that I will give you the refuge name, the Dharma name, and then again we will repeat, and in third time when we repeat, then when I say read your name, you read the Dharma name. Okay. So now first you come up. So you are offering the the hair. Okay. Come here. So when I say Tsupe Tepala Toam, you say Tola. Okay. Yes.
That's okay. Okay.
Tsupe Tepala Toam. You say Tola. You have to say Tola.
Tola.
Okay. This is your, what is it? This is your Dharma name, okay? Karma Tsirin Tashi.
Okay.
So normally you can say Karma Tsirin, or you can just say Tsirin Tashi, but that's the full name, like Karma Tsirin Tashi.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so karma is normally karma means, because I didn't write here too many to write. So karma is normally activity, the activity of all the enlightened beings. So basically, the activity of liberation. So, and then Tsiring is long life, and Tashi means auspicious. And so, in order to practice the Dharma, which is the activity to freedom from suffering, and then after, so that is a unique long life. In order to, after you attain realization, then to benefit beings, that is the activity of the enlightened beings. So that is karma, and then you need long life for achieving that karma. And then Tashi is auspicious. May your such activity path be auspicious and free from obstacles. Okay, so that is the meaning of your name.
Okay.
Okay, fine, you can.
Thank you.
Okay, so now this time you repeat again, and when I say repeat your name, you say the Dharma name, okay? Yeah. So again you repeat after me. Lopen, Gongsu, Sol, Da, Ming. Now you say your name. Karma, She, Jiwa, Tu, Dine, Zungte, Chisi, Chowe, Partu, Kangni, Namji, Chok, Sangje, La, Chapsu, Chiwo, Decha, Tang, Talwa, Namji, Chok, Chula, Chapsu, Chiwo, Tso, Namji, Chok, Gendun, La, Chapsu, Chiwo, Da, Tu, Dine, Zungte, Chisi, Chowe, Partu, Chapsum, Zinpe, Genyen, Tu, Lopen, Chi, Zungtu, Sol. Okay. Now when I say Tap Yinno, then you say Lexo, and with that Lexo, then I want you to, just rest in thought for a while. And what I want you to think is, you think that now I have received the refuge of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. So I have received that through this, the ceremony of the refuge, which right from the Buddha himself has been blessed and unbroken right till now. So you received through this blessing the refuge ceremony, and with that you have received the refuge of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and then you rejoice in this. You rejoice that for so many lifetimes you have been lost in the samsara, and today it is like you have found yourself. So from now on, then it is like now your eyes have been opened. Towards liberation. Towards realizing this very perfect you. So therefore you rejoice in that and remain in this state of great rejoice, and so try to get the feeling for a while. Okay, so when I say Tabino, you say Lexo, and then you rest, have a short thought of that. Okay, Tabino, Lexo. Okay, now we just think of what I told you for a while. Sincerely, genuinely think that you have received the refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha through this unbroken ceremony of the refuge, and rejoice in this great meritorious act which has been able to come together, not just like that, but with your many lifetime of accumulation of merit. So that has ripened today, and from now it is like the first step towards total liberation from suffering, the realization of the primordial truth. So we rejoice in this. Okay. So now, after taking the refuge, there are some advices that has been put forth. So I will go through them, and you try to keep them in your thought all the time. So it says, Teil habjalan gagbin habjasumda dubin habjasumda chadunjin habjasummo 당번에 상진의 접수성의 지된빈 할 점도 미자 출의 접수성의 심진의 뇌체 미자 긴둔의 접수성의 무대진의 로벌 미자와 대한 표현들은 무대 무수 민중이야 미득랑 간반남 무대 단다위 태단 민족바오. So it says, after taking our refuge to the Buddha, then one mustn't take refuge to any other source which is not which cannot give you the complete liberation. So like there are many worldly gods or anything. So so one shouldn't take refuge to that, because knowing that you have taken refuge to the Buddha, which is the ultimate source of complete freedom. Then after taking refuge to the Dharma, then it says one must practice loving kindness, compassion towards other beings, and refrain from hurting other beings, creating harm to other beings, and if possible, then one should help other beings, and if not, at least refrain from hurting others. So that is the after taking refuge to the Dharma. And after taking refuge to the Sangha, then it says one must always practice rightful thought, and don't associate with wrong views. So wrong views means there's no karma, there's no past, present, past life, future life. There's, if you do good action, there's no the positive fruit. If you do bad action, then there's no negative effect. So these things are wrong view. So we mustn't associate with such, and then we must always practice mindfulness and be of right view. So that is after taking refuge to the Sangha, then one must keep in mind these things, it says. Then Nipani Sangje Lancha Susone Kuten Tan Chachi Chadum Samlang Sangjin Nujin Dushe Jala Chachu Kurdeshe Ojavine Namsa Jogmin Jubatang. So it says that now after taking refuge to the Buddha, then one must always uphold and respect anything that represents the Buddha. So for example, Buddha's statue or Buddha's whatever, like the stupa or images or anything that represents Buddha, one must uphold and keep it respect, and because you have taken refuge to that. And then the second is Chula Chasune Sungden Tana Sungrabji Indu Jig Yenda Chumujin Dushijane Kurdishe Ojavine Namsa Juminjubata. So it means now after taking refuge to the Dharma, then Dharma, how does it manifest? The path itself is the Dharma, but how are we introduced to the path is because we cannot see Buddha directly right now. So Buddha himself has said that in the future he will manifest in words, in Dharma words, not just ordinary word, but Dharma words which show you the path to the liberation. So that way, then the Dharma words are the Buddha itself, for us. Because through the Dharma words, we understand what Dharma is. And through understanding the Dharma, then we know what is right, what is wrong, how to achieve complete freedom from suffering, how to abandon the root cause of suffering. So, and then by knowing that, then it shows us how to practice that. And then we can practice that. And through practice, we can achieve that. So therefore, Dharma, so it is a must. It is the most important, and that is represented through the words, the Dharma words. So therefore it says after taking refuge to the Dharma, then anything that represents the Dharma we must uphold with respect, and we shouldn't put under us, we shouldn't go over it, we shouldn't sit on it like that. Because I see many times, that because of lack of this understanding, that sometimes people, they look around, like in schools they do, in schools I remember we're doing, there's no place to sit, there's some, dirt, then you put the books underneath and you sit on that, right? So I see when I visit some centers like this, students, there's no place, there's no meditation cushion, then they put the thick book under them and then sit on that. So that is not right, because this is not just any entertainment, book, that is just serves no purpose but for just entertainment. So it's not like that. It is the Dharma book, which really represents you. So through this we achieve liberation. So that's okay. Don't worry. Yeah. So we try our best, but don't get too neurotic about it. Okay. So just we shouldn't sit on it. We shouldn't go over it disrespectfully. But we do whatever we can. So as long as we have that genuineness, is fine. So again, don't get too neurotic. Then it becomes, we should never be extreme. We should always follow the middle path. too extreme of good is not good, too extreme of bad is not good. We have to be middle, because too much good you become neurotic of good. Then because at the end, in essence, in ultimately there is no good and bad. Both good and bad is a concept. So if we fall into both concepts, it is the same. But of course we try to, good is better than bad, but we shouldn't fall into the concept, two extremes of both. So whatever we do in life, we must do it with balance. That is very important. So now here, then it says, then it says, after taking refuge to the Sangha, then whatever representing the Sangha, for example, the monks, or anything, anything that helps you through your path, one must, respect and uphold this. Sumba, then Sumba ne tutu kunchol choba kunchol choba na tsumba dang na nup so chapsun rowa na tsumba dang jibo tambal na deni chujin jesun jungjin chutang tumbar choba o. So it says, then also now since we have taken refuge, then from time to time we must reflect on this refuge. What is refuge? Why you took refuge? So upholding this, the meaning of refuge. Meaning of refuge means, I decide to become meaningful. Not just lost in the external, well-being, but the genuine, those external well-being, whether it is, it dependent on the internal, the state of the mind. No matter how comfortable external, state might be, if mind perceives it to be negatively, you will never be happy. You might have everything, but if your mind thinks you don't have enough, you will not be happy. But if you have not very much, but if your mind thinks I'm content, I have more than anybody else, I'm happy with that, then you are happy. So that way, at the end of the day, it is the state of the mind. So by looking inwardly, by developing, internally, then one will genuinely achieve this, happiness and freedom from suffering. So, therefore, as a person who has taken refuge, then we must, always remind ourselves of this and work towards that. So reminding ourselves of refuge, and the meaning of refuge, and so trying to live by that. So that is very important, because we might take refuge, we might say we are Buddhists, but we might, if we are not mindful, we act in the most, Buddhist way. Now, Buddhist doesn't mean you have become labeled with something. In Tibetan, Buddhist means Nangpa. Nang means inside. Pa means the one who looks inward, rather than outward for an answer. So being mindful all the time, looking inward rather than outside for everything. If there's a situation happening, not looking outward, blaming somebody or trying to change things outside, but looking inward, and saying, that it is this one who's perceiving things to be good or not good. So look inward and change inside. If you can change inside, then everything can become at peace. So that way, always working inward rather than outward for answer. So as a Nangpa, so you have become that now. So you have to now work towards liberation from inside rather than trying to look for solutions, external things. So but in balance, as I say. So now always, so keeping these things in mind, and then reciting the refuge. Like Sangje la chapsucho, Chula chapsucho, Gendula chapsucho, that is the refuge. Then Sangje Chudan, Solje Chonamna, Chanjo Bardo Dani chapsuchi, that's refuge. So these words, are refuge. So when you chant means it reminds you, so basically to remind you. And then it says always, then after taking refuge, we must try to receive Dharma teachings, because without receiving Dharma teaching, we don't know what to practice. Without practicing, you cannot attain a realization. So we must receive teachings from genuine masters, from genuine lineage, the genuine teaching. So we must do these things possible, as much as possible. So these things have to be kept in mind once you have received the refuge. Okay. So I'm telling all this because all of us have taken refuge. So it is a reminder for all of us, not only him, but for all of us. So we must keep these things in mind. And Jai Chile. Okay, so some rice. Otherwise, forget it, doesn't matter. It's okay, leave it.
Yeah.
If not, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Yush.
Nice.
Trimji tsurim jimejin, tsurim number daldandan, nomzimimbe tsurimji tsurim parashin zosho, jawa gunji jizu lobjido zambu jiva yonzo zojejin, tsurim chebe tumi yanda, daldu manyam jimejin parasho, sunamde tamjezi wanyi, tamnini be danam pamjini, jegana jibala, tubayi sibe tsulin tuwa doshi, jambaba, chidar jambaba, kundu zangba, teyan te jinde te da gunji jisu dal, giwande da tamje rabdunga, jinande wa, tsosonga, pendan namga, chambarje, dunga dunga, dagi, kurwa dunga jijazo tongbarasho. Okay, so the refuges were finished. So, okay, so now so I thought in the morning we can do some meditation. So okay. Otherwise, whatever. Okay. Let me check. Okay. These mobiles are useful. So now, so the great master Gambopa. So Gambopa is one of the greatest enlightened master. Yes, he was the principal disciple, spiritual heir of the Milarepa, and he was not an ordinary being. Even the Buddha himself had prophesied about Gambopa many times, and so he was a doctor by profession, and he had his family, but he faced many difficulties during his life. His wife died of disease, and then his children died like that, and then he faced many problems, and then that's how, through such a difficult life, then he turned towards the Dharma. He saw that this worldly life is of not much benefit, or is not free from suffering. No matter how much we try to achieve happiness, there is not much lasting happiness there. So he realized that only through the Dharma one can truly achieve a lasting happiness, not only for oneself but for others. So that is how he turned towards the Dharma, and he started, and then he became one of the greatest masters of the Kadampa, tradition, the Kadampa masters. So Kadampa is, they follow very strict discipline, external disciplines, and he was a great master. And then one day he heard about Milarepa, so Milarepa was a great yogi, so he heard about the Milarepa, and the very moment he heard the name Milarepa, immediately struck chord in him, he that connection, and he felt he has to receive teaching from this master. He has to make a connection with this master. Then he started searching for this master, because Milarepa was a yogi, so yogi, and in the Kadampa tradition they are very strict. They follow many vows and disciplines, and that monks and nuns, and so they didn't they were not very happy with Gambopa's such decision or such wish, because they thought a yogi having drinks, alcohol in the mountain, like this, so they thought that is not that at that moment, at that time, so they didn't really appreciate that too much. So but then Gambopa was different, he felt a complete connection with this, and then he went out of his monastery searching for this master. And then as he went looking for the Milarepa, then he asking, because Milarepa was very popular at that time, he was a great enlightened master. Then he came to this place where the foothill of the mountain where Milarepa was So Milarepa is yogi, in the mountains, giving teachings to his students and staying in the mountains. So in the foothills he came, and then he met one, Milarepa's student there, and then he asked the student, where is Milarepa, and that is, he's looking for, and he is so and so. Then the student told Gampopa that, Master Milarepa has been expecting you, from before. He's been telling, such a person, with such name from such place will be coming, and he is of great benefit to the, the beings and, to the Dharma, so it is you, so he's been expecting you, so I will inform him, so you wait. Then Gampopa felt very happy, so he thought, I am quite special, because even the master, he already knows who I am, and so that means I'm quite special, and then I should be able to attain realization quickly without much difficulty, because I seem to be a special person. Then when he thought like that, he gained a little bit of ego, So when that happened, Milarepa immediately knew, because Milarepa was a great enlightened yogi who had omniscience, So he realized that this Gampopa developed, ego. Then, then he did not give audience to Gampopa for a very long time. So he told, that wait, and then he will, call for him when it's ready. So Gampopa is waiting in the foothills for his, being called by Milarepa to see him. But a day passed, weeks passed, months passed, and he's not being called. And then he's praying, to Guru, to Milarepa, that may he, be called, may he make this connection. And like this, praying very hard, working very hard, like this, doing prostrations, doing, whatever, and practice and everything, but not being called. So then, he was getting very, then he felt, that basically, then Milarepa was breaking his ego, because he had developed an ego thinking that he was special. So then not giving him audience and giving him a difficult time made him realize that he is he is nobody. He's the of course he was special, but because of that ego, basically breaking down his ego, then he then gradually, completely, he was broken down, and then the time was right. Then Milarepa sent his student to call him, said that come, to see him, now he's ready to see him. So then he was very happy, and he went to see Milarepa, and then Milarepa, the moment he saw Milarepa offered him a bowl of alcohol, so alcohol to drink. And as when guests come, we offer tea, right? So he offered him we say in Tibetan chung. Chung is the millet, I guess, right? They make like alcohol, So he gave him a bowl of that. And Gampopa, being a monk, of the highest, discipline, he thought, is it right to drink alcohol? I am a monk with so much, all this discipline and vows and that. And the moment he thought that, again, Milarepa, immediately knew, and Milarepa said, don't, confuse yourself with too much thoughts, son, don't, these are all basically all concepts, so don't get too tangled up into all these concepts, and, don't think too much. And then when Milarepa told him that, Gampopa immediately knew that, this is an enlightened being, who completely, reads his, mind, understands him. So he had so much faith that he completely drank the whole entire bowl of alcohol, not just sip, but then he gulped it up entirely, and then made it empty. And then that was, Milarepa later said that was a very auspicious sign, because it meant that he would be able to absorb the entire teaching of Milarepa and to spread the Dharma, to the beings, benefit beings. So it was a sign of that, so he was a very great master like that. So now, so Gampopa himself, such a, and then also, as we know, Kajuba, from the Dorje Chang, then Tilopa, Naropa, then the great Marpa, Marpa from Tibet went to India and brought the Dharma, Kagyu lineage to the Tibet, and then from Marpa to Milarepa, he was the main disciple of Marpa, and then from Milarepa, so till then it was known as the Marpa Kagyu, because Marpa brought the Kagyu lineage from India to Tibet, so it was known as the Marpa Kagyu. And then, but after the Gambopa, after Milarepa, then Gambopa, after Gambopa, it came to be known as Thakpo Kagyu. It was Marpa Kagyu, but Marpa Kagyu, people also call it Thakpo Kagyu, because that shows that how vast the Gambopa's benefit to the beings through this Dharma is, because he was so he was so, I don't know how to say, not famous, right? He was so, his Dharma activity flourished so much that the Marpa Kagyu, was also known as Thakpo Kagyu. Thakpo is his name, right? So Thakpo Kagyu, it became so, so it shows how great his activity was, to benefit beings through the Dharma. So he was, as prophesied by Buddha himself and many other enlightened masters. So that way, so Thakur Rinpoche is a very, very special, very, not ordinary, very special enlightened master, and he has taught many teachings, and in his teachings, then he himself has said, that there's a very brief teaching of his called Thakpo Chuji in the four dharmas of Gambopa, and he said this four dharma of Gambopa, it encompasses the entire teaching of the Buddha. The entire teaching of the Buddha is what, as I said, is Dharma. And what is Dharma? Dharma is the path. Is the path through which we can eradicate completely our ignorance and realize the ultimate truth. So that is the Dharma. And that is the teaching of the Buddha. So this entire teaching of the Buddha, the Dharma, can be summarized into these four sentences. It is said, and then this four sentence start. It is right from the very basic, the starting till the end. From the starting, like as I said today, the first step towards enlightenment, the liberation, to the last point where it's complete realization. So the entire process, this can be put together in these four lines. So that is how condensed, and that is how precious this teaching is, and it is called the four dharmas of Gambopa. So in Tibetan it's called Thakpo Chuji. So the four is Lo Chu Sundor Shinjin Abdusol, Chu Lam Tundor Shinjin Abdusol, Lam Tupa Savar Shinjin Abdusol, Tupa Yeshisu Charvar Shinjin Abdusol. So Lo Chu Sundor Shinjin Abdusol means grant your blessing so that my mind may turn towards the Dharma. So may my mind turn towards Dharma. So that is the first sentence. Second sentence is, it says, then the second sentence is Chu Lam Tundor Shinjan Abdusol, which means grant your blessing so that Dharma may progress along the path. So Chu Lam Tundor. And third, Lam Tuba Seva Shinjan Abdusol means grant your blessing so that the path may clarify confusion. And the fifth, means Tuba Yeshis or Charva Shinjan Abdusol means grant your blessing so that confusion may dawn as wisdom. Or transform as wisdom. So as I said, the first Lo Chusundro Shinjan Abdusol, which means grant your blessing so that the mind turn towards Dharma. So mostly, as I explained to you in the refuge that time, so that is the our mind, we seek for this freedom from suffering, but we are always through ignorance we are always trying to do that, but not able to really achieve the goal. Sometimes able to achieve a little bit, but it changes again. And then sometimes, most of the time, the very thing that we try to achieve turns into the very source of another suffering. So that is the worldly dharma. So in the worldly dharma. So here, when it says towards the dharma, it means the profound dharma. So profound Dharma, as I explained to you, is the Dharma, the unmistaken Dharma, or the Dharma to which we take refuge. So the Dharma, the teaching or the manifestation of the Buddha's, path for beings to liberate beings. So that is the Dharma. So which teaches us the what is suffering, what are the root cause of suffering, and then how to overcome those root cause of suffering. So that is the Dharma. That is the path. So now it says, grant your blessing so that the mind may turn towards Dharma. So now, in order to turn our mind towards the Dharma, it is very important to first realize what our capability. If we don't recognize our capability, then we will not work, or we will not generate any motivation to do anything. So therefore, for example, we call them the 4 reminders. 4 reminders are the first, the precious human life, how do you say, so precious human life is, we as, now life, as I said, there's so many forms, as human, as animal, as, so there are so many. And from all that, we consider now human is the most, capable, because we have this brain, intelligence, so we can, do many things. For example, a small person like us, a person can train, and work with a huge animal like an elephant. For elephant, if elephant really wants to, subdue us, it's very easy, But we can subdue the elephant. We can make the elephant turn right, left, stop, do anything through this. So that kind of we have that kind of capability. But is that a noble capability? No, that is just an ordinary capability. Now, so here as a human, we are much more. So that is an ordinary human capability. As a precious human being, it is much more than that. Why? Because precious means it has to be genuinely precious. How can it be genuinely precious? Is when this human, life can achieve something that is noble, that is something that is profound, not just ordinary. As I said, something that can achieve the liberation, the complete freedom from ignorance. That is precious, that is profound. And not everybody can do that. As we see, forget about other universe. Only in this universe, our kind of human being also. There is how many? Over 7 billion, little less than 7 billion human beings. And in that 7 billion human beings, how many of us really have, realized that the only source to complete freedom from ignorance and freedom from suffering lies within ourselves, is inside us, turning towards ourselves rather than looking for external, trying to change everything else. So how many of us really have that thought? How many of us really, through that, how many of us really have realized that Buddha, Dharma and Sangha is the genuine source of refuge? And how many of us really thought that the well-being of others is more important? It's very important, essential for the well-being of oneself also. So how many of us really have thought that? And how many of us really have, taken up this and put it into practice? How many of us? Just handful of us, as we can see. Even in this city, only a handful of us here, who have really come here, spent some time, and listening to this, trying to reflect on this and that. So even, the 7 billion human beings are not precious, though we all have this human life. How many of us are, out there are so selfish that don't realize what they are doing, and creating so much, suffering for, everywhere, everywhere, to every beings, others, to the planet. And now, we all faced this year, that the climate change, and all these heat waves and all these floods and all these, things happening, which, and then suffering so much out of that. And who did this? It is the humans, we ourselves who create all this problem, and then we suffer through all this, so like that, we are all, but as I said, everybody wishes to be happy, free from suffering. So everybody is working towards that, but not able to see the, the right way of doing it, and do things which create extra problem. So like that, and then presently also, so many things going around in the world, and creating problems, creating things, and so all that. So that we can, with all this, we can see that not every being is a precious being. It is so it is very rare to have this, true precious human life. So one which really is meaningful, sees the, the truth, sees the importance of, realizing the truth. So therefore working towards that. So now that is very important. So we have all those abilities. One, we have this intelligence. Two, knowing how to use the intelligence in the right way. Having that capability, having that freedom of, able to listen to the Dharma, able to practice the Dharma, able to understand the Dharma, able to absorb the Dharma, so all that, able to find confidence in the Dharma. So that is not easy, that is, you need many, so like that. So that way we have this freedom. So that is first, precious human life. Then the understanding of the karma, cause and condition. Or let's say impermanence. Second, impermanence. Now, many people again think impermanence is something very negative. But that is not. If we block ourselves to this, extremes, then impermanence is. They are scared of it. But if we really look at it with a very open mind, impermanence is the most natural thing. It's because of impermanence, everything can happen. Good things can happen because of impermanence. And bad things can cease also because of impermanence. Otherwise, bad things can never cease if there's no impermanence. So if you look from that point of view, it is not bad. It is a very natural process of everything. So when you look at that, it is part and parcel. You yourself, every moment we are going through impermanence. Right from our birth till now, the change is impermanence. Right now, every moment, from the moment I entered into this hall till, now it's impermanence going, so that way it's impermanence. And me able to come here is also impermanence. You able to come here is also impermanence. Otherwise you would be stuck somewhere, wherever you are, not able to do anything, so that is because of impermanence, power of impermanence, the situation of impermanence, all this is possible, so that is impermanence, nothing so difficult to understand, nothing so frightening to understand, nothing so negative or positive about it, that is the fact, that is the reality of everything. And people are scared about death, but the death, very understanding of the death itself means birth. Where does a birth come without a death? Where does a death come without a birth? So that is the natural process of everything. For example, let's take like this house. An old house can be renovated into a beautiful new one, because the death of the old house becomes the rebirth of a new beautiful house. So that is change, that is permanence. So that, so it is not negative, it is the reality, it is the, nature of everything, relative nature of everything. So ultimately, of course, it is beyond such limitations of life and death. But relatively, as far as, as long as we are, we have this I here, as long as we perceive you as you there, as long as we have this kind of a concept, then, this impermanence, the life and death, the impermanence of things, all this is natural. So good health is possible because bad health is ceasing. So therefore good health is possible. So like that. So everything is possible because of impermanence. So that way, recognizing this is very important. If we don't recognize this, then what happens is, then again we get stuck to thinking everything is permanent, and then we don't work towards liberation. So to understand, because everything is passing all the time. Our life is also passing, as I said. From the moment I was born till now, it's changed. From the moment I entered this hall till now, time has passed. So that is impermanence. So it is getting closer to the next life. So therefore, now then we say, as a Buddhist, we understand that this, what you did in the past life, you can know by looking at this life. And what you want to, what you wish to, be in the future life depends on what your action is in this life. So if you wish to have a better future life than this, then your action should, manifest into that, so that it can give you that better life in the future. So, and what was in the past, you look at what it is right now. So if you have lots of suffering, lots of problems, lots of confusion, and that is a kind of telling us that what kind of a past we lived. So therefore we don't like this present. If it's too much confusion, too much unhappiness, too much things happening, we don't want to continue this, right? So we have to work towards not making this repeat again. So we work towards being mindful, being kind, being compassionate, so that our next is better. So that way we can work. So impermanence, so it helps us this way, to understand all this. Then we become much wide, our heart becomes open, we become much, we are not so small-minded. Like for example, during this pandemic time, we saw so many people who understood Dharma, who understood impermanence, who understood these things. They were okay with it, and they were able to. Of course, everybody went through difficult time. Like how you went through difficult time, I went through difficult time is the same thing. There's no difference between you and me as far as the COVID is concerned. COVID doesn't choose, oh, you are so and so, he is so and so, I'd rather go to him than you. COVID doesn't choose that. For COVID, everybody is equal. So that way you suffer same as I suffered. I suffered same as you suffered. So that way everybody is same. But the way we perceive it to, how we choose to suffer is different. So people who are able to understand, realize this impermanence or Dharma, they were able to absorb it better. We need to protect ourselves. We need to take whatever necessary precautions, take whatever we are supposed to. We have to do all that. We have to do. Because that is the reality. We have to do all that. So those knowing that we do that, yet not getting so obsessed or so disheartened or so thing by that now this is the end of life. Some people like that, they think this is the end of life, stop living, and they're not sick actually, they never got the COVID, but their mind is already, affected more than getting the COVID, because of like this, because of lack of understanding of this, but if you are more, if you understand these things, then, it happened, so we protect ourselves, we do whatever we necessary, but we cannot change everything, so it happens, again we try to live best out of that, and then try to do whatever necessary, whatever right thing we should do, we do that, and then, everything is impermanent, so this is also a phase, if it happened, there has to be an end, because whatever goes up has to come down, whatever start has to be an end, whatever, so like that, that is impermanent, so when we look from that point of view, then it is true, when it first started, we know how it was, today we know how it is, it's still there, but the power of it is not as bad as when it first came, and gradually it will go, and again in the same way, there are many new things might come up, new things might not, and so everything is impermanent that way, so we don't need to be so, so it helps us to be a much balanced person, so through understanding these things. So in the same way, Dharma is also like that. In practicing of the Dharma also it helps us. When we understand impermanence, it pushes us to work hard. Yet, when there are, times when we feel our practice not going well, we are not able to do what we wish to do, you understand that this is impermanence. So everything has a moment is changing. So just be in the moment, do your best, and that's it, and then next moment again, it's a new moment. So that way you become a much more relaxed practitioner. If you are a too tensed practitioner, your practice cannot go well, because you are too, too much, so extreme. So cannot. You have to be relaxed, you have to be, balanced and relaxed to have a good practice, so that way one can achieve that. So that is why impermanence is very important. Now, of course, impermanence in the teaching, one can go through the teachings, and there's so many, it's a very vast chapter. But put in brief, then impermanence is a very important practice, for our Dhamma practice, for everything, in our day-to-day life also, to be able to live a more, balanced life, to be able to have a more, so like, now this is a very worldly, worldly thing, but as an example, right? So, for example, business. In business, if you understand impermanence, then you take, you do things, you take chances or whatever, and then, you see the results, and then, some, benefit a lot out of that, some, lose things. So, but then, if you understand impermanence, when you lose things, you realize you have lost, but it is not the end. There's another, you can again gain, so you continue, you are strong, you continue to strive for your goal, and then gradually, one day you will be successful. Same way, when you gain so much, you understand impermanence, that is not the end. So you continue to work and not, get stuck there. So that way, even in business, and it helps. If you don't understand impermanence, when you lose something, then you think that is the end of the world. Now everything is gone. Then you jump off the window, and then you are gone. You lose your life. If you kill yourself, then what more? It is the you cannot do anything more. You cannot improve, right? So, and then it is not the end of everything. So there's next life. So that way it is not the end of solution. But then without understanding this, then people do such things. But if you really understand impermanence, then you become a much stronger person, much balanced person. You are not shaken up by little things. You are able to see things with a more broader, perspective, and more balanced perspective. So that way, impermanence is very important to understand. So that way, in daily worldly life also is important. So naturally, in Dharma, of course, impermanence is very important to understand. So if we understand impermanence, then we will not waste time. We will always be mindful. We will always work towards liberation. For the benefit of others. So like this. Then the next thing is then karma, cause and condition. So, and this is also, again, people have very difficult time understanding, but I really don't realize, I don't understand why people have so difficult, understanding karma, cause and condition. Because everything is karma, cause and condition, which means every action has its, result. That is the fact. So when you charge a battery, the result is it gets charged. So that is karma cause. So there's nothing more to understand or less to understand about that. If you don't charge a battery and keep using it, the battery will finish. So after it finishes, you cannot use anymore. That is the karma cause and condition. So what's so difficult to understand about that? It is the fact. And so like that. So everything is like that. So in order to come into the room, I've got to come through the door. That is karma cause and condition. So I have to make that cause and condition to come in. I have to think of wanting to come in here, and I have to come in here and sit here. So before coming in, I was outside there. I made this thought, and then I had to walk in. So I walked in, and I got here. So that is cause and condition. So before cause and condition, after cause and condition, that is karma cause and condition. Nothing. This is not so difficult to understand. So everything is like that. So nothing ceases. Forever. Nothing there. No cause, no condition. No, as long as it's relative, all this is there. How do I get here without walking in? How do I, go out without walking out of this door? So there has to be a, past, present, and future. That is everything is that. So that way, then now everything we look around is like that. So everything has a past, everything has a present, everything has a future. As long as it's relative, everything has this. So today morning, it was morning. Because morning was there, midday can be there. And because midday is there, evening can be there. And because evening is there, midday is there. Because midday is there, morning is there. So, this is karma, cause and condition. So this is, so it's very simple. It's if you look that. So that way, just because we cannot see, we cannot label it as not there. We cannot be so, so, how do you say, so narrow-minded, very short-sighted. If we refuse to believe that there will never be a evening today, because I haven't seen evening, I cannot see evening, I don't believe in evening, that's stupid, right? Because whether we believe or not, evening is there. As time passes, evening will come. Sun will set, it will become dark. And if we refuse to believe tomorrow is not there because I cannot experience tomorrow, isn't that stupid? Because tomorrow is there, it will come. So just because we cannot see doesn't mean it's not there, right? So by saying there's no next life because I cannot see next life, it's same like that. It is exactly the same. So how is today here without yesterday? It's not possible. So because yesterday was there, today is here. Today cannot come from nowhere. Same way, tomorrow cannot be there without today. Today cannot be there without tomorrow. So karma, cause and condition is that. So it's very simple. So that way, if we look at it in that way, then it's not so difficult to understand. And because I hear of so many people, who have been in the Dharma for like many years, 30 years, 40 years, but still don't have confidence in karma, cause and condition. Still don't have confidence in the life after death and all this. So I really don't understand. Because that is, I think, being too, too small-minded. I think. Just believing only what you want to believe and not willing to believe what you don't want to believe. So that is not the truth. That is not the practical. That's not reality. That is just your view. So we must, as a practitioner, as a mindful being, we must be able to absorb things or look at things neutrally, with an open mind. Then that is how we can see the reality. That is how we develop. So in that sense, then karma, cause and condition is very important. So as a practitioner, of course, so we need to create the right, cause and condition to experience, the right result. We need accumulate. So we need to understand that. If not, then we will do things which will have negative result. Though we wish for something, but we will do the opposite thing. So then we will never achieve the result. So that way, if we understand this well, then we will do things which is necessary, which is mindful, to do, so that we can achieve the result that we wish to achieve. So that is why karma, cause and condition is very important. Then next is the suffering of the samsara, or the nature of the samsara is very important to understand. Because if we don't understand the nature of samsara, then we might create good karma, cause and condition. But as I said, karma, cause and condition is relative. So as long as we are relative, it stands its ground. But that is not the ultimate. Karma, as long as it's relative, there's you can create. As long as you can create, it can it can finish also, right? As long as it can finish, it can be created also. That is the reality. That is what it is. As long as I can fill this cup, it can be emptied also. As long as it can be emptied, it can be filled. So that is correlation. That is the that is the relative aspect, or the and dualism. So that way, karma, cause and condition is like that. Now. So if we only get absorbed in that, then what again happens is, we work only towards creating good karma. We will benefit out of that with good, like good rebirth, good health, higher rebirth, peace of some degree in this, in the samsara. So like that, so we will achieve that. But that everything has, as I said, limitations. So no matter how much we create good karma, unless we continue to create good karma, it will exhaust. So that way, in the samsara, we say it's this, it's a cycle of, it's change. Change. Sometime up, sometime down. Sometime up, sometime down, like this. So we are always, in this samsara. But we have to go out of this. Complete realization is the ultimate realization, which is beyond such limitations of relative existence. It is beyond that. It is the understanding or the realization of the emptiness. Realization of emptiness is beyond such limitations of condition existent, or things like that. So that is why understanding the nature of samsara is very important. So when we understand the nature of samsara, no matter how it is always, there's always limitations to it. Of course, when we are born as inferior beings, as in like in the hell realm or in the spirits or in the animal realm, there's difficulties. We face many suffering. Human realm also, in the humans also, we have so many different kinds of human, and some having lots of problems, some having less problem. All that, in the samsara. That is the samsara. Then in the higher realm, like the God's realm, let's say, they have much more power, much more things. But then all that is not permanent. It ceases with time. Because if they don't accumulate more merit, it will finish. So it is said, in the God's realm, they have so much comfort, so much, happiness, or so much thing that they forget to accumulate more merit. Because it is like us, right? When we are happy, we don't think of working towards, accumulation of more. But it is when we have little difficulty that we work towards happiness, right? When we are always happy, we forget, and then we get carried away. So that is how it is. So then in the God's realm they forget, and then they forget to accumulate more merit. And then when their merit exhausts, then they're back to again either human realm or lower realm like this. And then again, so that is the cycle, of the samsara. So here, by understanding that cycle in the samsara, as long as you are in the samsara, there's never an end to suffering. It is always like a circle. So therefore, knowing that that is an illusion, samsara is an illusion. But as long as we have this concept, as long as we are relative, as long as we are trapped in this concept of relativity or in the concept of duality, of this, then we have to experience this. But that is not the reality. The reality, ultimately, it is free from all this kind of limitation. All this is an illusion. So when we recognize, or when we really realize this, or when we are free from this, is when we realize the truth, when we realize the ultimate, the emptiness, when we realize the emptiness nature of everything. So that is the true freedom from samsara. So by knowing the nature of samsara, then we will not get stuck into the joy of the samsara, the worldly pleasures. We will not be stuck in the worldly pleasure. We will understand that the worldly pleasure is temporary. It's not a permanent solution. There's always again, it ceases. So therefore, we work towards something that is greater than that, and that is the liberation. Complete freedom, enlightenment, which is the realization of the emptiness, the truth. So that helps us. So as a Dharma practitioner, so therefore these four are called four reminders, because it reminds us all the time, to keep us on the correct path, to not to deviate from the right path. So always reminding us. So this is very meaningful and effective, because it really helped me personally. So that is why I'm telling you. Because for me personally, through reflecting on these things. And I still reflect on these things, and we try to reflect all the time, on these things, because permanence is everywhere. Whether we go through permanence, our near and dear ones will go through impermanence. Everything will go through impermanence. So every day, every moment, we are going through impermanence. So we have so much opportunity to reflect on impermanence. Precious human life, we have precious human life. So there's so much to rejoice in this. And there's so much, it is so important to not waste this precious human life. So how do you not waste precious human life? Is by recognizing the value of this precious human life. So therefore always reflecting on these precious human life. Then, the karma cause and condition. As I said, everything is karma cause and condition. There's everything. So everything happening around you. Everything that one experiences karma cause and condition. So we are always mindful of that. Always working on that. If we experience something negative, we understand it did not come from nowhere. It came from a cause and condition. So through that, make sure next experience will not be like that. So working towards improving our next experience. By eradicating the negative karma, the cause and condition like that. So always improving. Always thinking of these things, and then that is not the end. So we are not dejected by it, because we know this is not the end. What the next is in our hand. So like that. So that way, and then but not getting only stuck in that. Because with the understanding of the samsara and the nature of samsara, then we are not only stuck to this pleasure of just the karma cause and condition. And because we know that this is relative, we have to move beyond that. And to move beyond that is through realization of the emptiness, the truth. So therefore, working towards that through Dharma, the practice of the Dharma. So working towards that, not getting stuck in this worldly pleasure, the samsara, because knowing the nature of the samsara as nothing but change, change of, change, everything is changing there. So like that. So if we reflect on these, it really, then we are mindful all the time. We are able to be mindful. So like that. So now first, lo chuzun, so here it's a lo chuzun door. So how do you turn the mind towards the Dharma is through this. So being mindful of these things, then our mind turns towards the Dharma. And through all this, then we wish to genuinely tread that path. And then the first step towards that is taking the refuge. So when we take refuge means, as I already explained to you, so that is where we genuinely wish to tap into who we really are. What we really are, how we really are. So working towards that now. So being mindful. So that is the first step, the refuge. Then that is a genuine refuge. So taking the refuge. So that is the first. Lo chusudor. That is the practice of the first. Lo chusudor. Then the next is chu lamdundor. So chu lamdundor means now it says grant your blessing so that Dharma may progress along the path. So in order for Dharma to progress along the path without obstacles, then as I say, merit is very important. For anything, for example, in a family, they might be twins, and the two twins, they might look alike, they might be born almost the same time, everything same, but the way they think is different, the way they experience is different. One might experience more success in life, the other one might not experience so much success in life. One might be happier with certain things, the other one might not be happy with that thing. So it's different. Why? Because of this merit. Merit and one's own past, one's own accumulation of merit and all that. So in the same way, even in Dharma is the same. If you wish your Dharma practice to go well, then accumulation of merit is important. Because we have been so much habituated to the worldly way of thinking that it is very difficult to break out of that. And because of that, to be able to do that, we need very strong conditions, to be able to do that. For example, like a person, a chain drinker or smoker, chain smoker, drinker is called what? Addiction to alcohol, and somebody who has, then, why has it become like that? That is because of strong habit, right? No one is born a chain smoker. No one is born a chain drinker. I mean, what do you call for a drinker? Not chain, right? Alcoholic. And nobody is born like that, right? But you start at one point and then gradually you do it so much that it becomes a habit, and it becomes an addiction. And then you become that. Because you were never born a chain smoker or a drinker, there is possibility for you to go back to freedom from that kind of a habit, because it was a habit. It is not who you are. It is not the nature of that person. It was a habit created. So therefore, there's a way to decode that habit. Right? So same way, us, because of our habitual, through ignorance, we create this habit, of such, and then we are lost in this, and then but that is not our nature. As I said, our nature is Buddha. We are perfect by nature. Our nature is, this Buddha by nature. So we are beautiful, we are perfect, we are loving, we are kindness by nature. So therefore, but it has been contaminated, temporarily with ignorance, and creates so much, habit to this, true, taking this I. Taking this limitless potential as an I, confused, and then through confusion, seeing that as I, and then I as a real, kind of a solid, kind of existing kind of a thing, and then to that, then creating, others there, and then I has those who are near, who it likes, then to that attachment, those who doesn't like, hatred, and then like that, then ego and all that. Then all these are called afflictive emotions or the defilements, So and these create confusion, and all this creates all the sufferings. The sufferings. These are the root cause of suffering. They say, So the stronger I have this strong holding on to this I, self identity, self importance, the more suffering such a person has. The more one person has, respect for others, well-being of others, that person has more happiness, more, joy in his life. That is the reality. We see. We even if we practice ourselves, we can feel that. So that is why. And these are all created through habit. So our nature is loving, our nature is kindness, our nature is perfect. But because of these temporary, through ignorance, and then these, illusion of concepts, and these things are created. So, but that is, like I said, is like the habit. It is a habit created through many lifetimes. So, because it is not our nature, we can eradicate them. We can gradually peel them off. We can gradually clean them. How do we clean them? By practice, practice of meditation, by practice of the right view, by practice of loving kindness, compassion, by practice of, learning to see others as, their well-being or oneself. So like this, contentment and all these practice. So like that. So now, So now all that, in order for all this to, one to be able to do that, then we need a strong, efficiency. We need efficiency in that. We need the motivation. We need the fuel to be able to do that, and that is through merit. Merit is very important. We say, accumulation of merit, the conditions, the right conditions. And then, so in order to create the right condition, then the next, the teaching it says, so bless us with the right conditions so that our Dharma progress can, Dharma practice can progress without obstacle. So how do we do that? Like for example, the greatest practice of that is the practice of loving kindness, compassion, the bodhicitta. That is the highest form of accumulation of merit. Practice of the loving kindness, compassion, practice of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is called the limitless loving kindness, compassion. Why? Because it is the striving towards liberation, total liberation, enlightenment, for the benefit of being limitless beings. One wishes to attain the complete liberation, enlightenment. So for that working, that is bodhicitta. So that is limitless loving kindness, compassion. So for that, then developing, loving kindness, compassion, practicing on, seeing others as, the well-being of others as important. Seeing, so less practice of, trying to reduce selfishness. So lots of people again fear, that if they practice such a thing as, less selfishness and others, when they lose out and, when they, then when they like lose out on being happy, to give their happiness to others and others, they have this kind of a fear. But again, in reality, it doesn't work like that. It is the more you have selfish attitude, and the more you have this attachment to the self-identity or I, then what happens is I always give. I see it as this, It is like like the, when you do the target practice, shooting practice. It is like then you are the biggest target. If you have strong selfish, attachment to self, and then that is like, you are the biggest target. And anybody can shoot you. It's very easy to hit you. Because one doesn't need to have a good aim. You just shoot, and then if you are big enough, you will be shot. You will be hit easily. So like that. So the bigger your I is, your ego is, very easy to be hit. Someone says little thing, you can get hurt. Someone might not even say anything, but you think they said something and you get hurt. Because of your ego, because of all these, your attachment to yourself and like that. So everybody you look down, you think you are the best, and everybody has that in them. Whether it is big or small, depending on individual, but everybody has some level of that. And then you cannot. Then that way everybody becomes allergic to you. Then you are always having problems. Never happy. But then. on the other hand, if you have, a genuine, respect for others, well-being of others, and able to let go of the self, attachment, or strong self, like this attachment, ego, like this. Now what happens then? I say, your target is very small. Then when this target is very small, then very easy to hit. Very difficult to hit, right? When the target is small, then only those who are really good at aim, others cannot hit you. Then when you are not hit, then you are not suffering. So that's how by thinking of others, you yourself benefit. And then if you are able to reduce your target to a needle, then almost impossible to hit. So then you are always happy. You are always joyful. Nobody is able to harm you in any way because you are always thinking for the well-being of others. So they try to hit you also. You are not hurt. Because there is nothing to be hurt. Because you have no more. Of course. Till we attain enlightenment, we still have some, that we might be as small as a needle, but still, so it's much better than being as big as an elephant, right? So that way it helps us, So we might think it is losing out on something, but actually it benefits us in many ways. So that is why such practice of loving kindness, compassion, it's very. It's the highest form of accumulation of merit. Then along with that, of course, other practices like like mandala offering, helping others, and practice of doing circumambulation of the holy objects. Then all these, so these things, practice of the Vajrasattva. And like in the Mundo practice, you have the practice of Vajrasattva, practice of the mandala offering. So all these are accumulation of merit. So that one, one purifies the obstacles to one's path to enlightenment, and in the process purifies all other obstacles to one's bad health, problems, sufferings of this life and future lives and like that. So that is the next. So accumulation of merit is very important for one's path to be successful. So here it's talking about the precious dharma. As we saw in the beginning, it says the dharma, which is the profound dharma, and so not the worldly dharma. So in order to be able to eradicate or all the obstacles to attaining the complete realization, which is through the profound dharma, then one needs to accumulate merit so that one's practice of the profound dharma is free of obstacle. So for that, practice of loving kindness, compassion is most important, limitless loving kindness, compassion, and then also Vajrasattva practice, mandala offering practice, so anything, so those kind of things, and then so. And then now, so I think we keep here and then we continue in the next session. Okay, it's already time. So we stop for break. Then so those two are the first two. Then next we do the. Okay. Now we do the dedication. So it's on page number 32, 1 to 3rd line. Okay, page number 32, 32. Okay. Sonam de tamje zebani thorne nibi ranam pamje ne jega naji balap chubai sibe chol ron ro jo jambala ba chedara chemba kundu zambo teyan tejin de teda kunji jesu dabo gewan deda tamji rabdo ho gewan de jiwo kun sonam ishe tozo ne sonam ishe lejung tamba gunyen tobara sho sangje kusum nyebe shinab chunye minjura dembe shinab dan gendu miche dembe shinab chedaram hoa manam dubara sho gewan de nyurdo chaja jimbo dubjuran dowa jikja madhuba te sarva gubara sho om banzara sadho samaya manupala banzara sadho dinoba ditan dido membawa sudho kayo membawa subho chayo membawa anurado membawa sarva siddhi medrayaja sarva karma sujame cirdam shriya kuru hum ha ha ho bhagavan sarva tatha gadam banzara mahamimzam banzara mahasamaya sadho